Have you ever wondered what the money in your wallet is truly worth? Why can it buy so much at one moment, yet lose its value so drastically at another? We trust its value simply because the government says so. But there was a time when every bill you held was a solid promise, a promise that it could be exchanged for real gold. Sounds stable and secure, doesn't it? But the truth behind the gold-backed monetary system is more astonishing than fiction. It's a story of power, war, and a single overnight decision that changed the entire global economy forever. Welcome back to the Economic History Channel. In today's video, we will explore the rise and fall of the gold standard, the system that was once the backbone of world finance. To understand why gold became so powerful, let's travel back to the world before the 19th century. At that time, international trade was a chaotic mess. Nations used all sorts of currencies, from silver and copper to bimetallic systems, both gold and silver. The biggest problem was that their values were constantly changing. A merchant in London might struggle to trade with a partner in Paris because the exchange rate between silver and gold was always fluctuating, creating risk and uncertainty. The world needed an anchor, a common, stable standard that everyone could trust. And gold, with its unique properties, rare, durable, easily divisible, and globally recognized, became the perfect candidate. The United Kingdom, the financial center of the world at the time, was the pioneer. In 1821, after the monetary instability caused by the Napoleonic Wars, Britain formally adopted the gold standard. This meant that every British pound issued was backed by a specific amount of gold in the Bank of England's reserves. Anyone could take their paper money to the bank and exchange it for gold at a fixed rate. This solution was incredibly simple, yet profoundly powerful. It forced the government into fiscal discipline, as they couldn't arbitrarily print money without enough gold to back it. This created incredible stability for the pound, turning it into the world's reserve currency and laying the foundation for a new era. Britain's success created a domino effect. The crucial turning point came in the 1870s. After its victory in the Franco-Prussian War, the newly formed German Empire decided to join the gold standard, using war reparations from France to build its gold reserves. Other major powers like the United States, France, and many European countries quickly followed suit. The period from about 1870 to 1914 is known as the classical gold standard era. This was an age of unprecedented globalization. Because the value of each currency was pegged to gold, exchange rates between countries were virtually fixed. This eliminated currency risk, fueling a boom in international trade and investment. Capital could flow freely from one place to another, seeking the best returns. An interesting anecdote from this period tells of an English gentleman who could travel the world with just a checkbook from his London bank. In any financial center, from Paris to New York to Tokyo, he could cash his check for local currency at a nearly constant exchange rate, because they were all ultimately backed by one thing: gold. This stability and trust represented the peak prosperity of the gold standard. The system operated almost automatically. A country with a trade deficit would see gold flow out, reducing its money supply, lowering prices, and thus making its goods more competitive, automatically correcting the trade balance. Stability did not last forever. The first fateful turning point was World War I in 1914. The discipline of the gold standard, its strength in peacetime, became its fatal flaw in wartime. The warring nations needed enormous amounts of money to finance their war machines, sums that far exceeded their gold reserves. To do this, they were forced to do the unthinkable: suspend the convertibility of paper money into gold. The gold standard was put on hold.
After the war, nations attempted to return to gold, but the world had changed. The global economy was weakened, and the Great Depression of 1929 dealt a fatal blow. Amid economic collapse and rising unemployment, maintaining a currency fixed to gold became an unbearable burden. It prevented governments from implementing expansionary monetary policy, printing more money to stimulate their economies. The most dramatic event occurred on September 21, 1931. Facing a financial crisis as investors rushed to convert British pounds into gold, draining the national reserves, the British government made a shocking decision: to completely abandon the gold standard. This was a game-changing moment. The most powerful financial empire, the nation that had given birth to the system, had now killed it with its own hands. Britain's decision sent shockwaves, and a cascade of other countries followed suit, abandoning gold. Although the post-World War II Bretton Woods system attempted to revive a form of the gold standard, where the US dollar was pegged to gold and other currencies were pegged to the dollar, it was only temporary. Finally, on August 15, 1971, facing the immense costs of the Vietnam War and pressure from other countries to redeem their dollars for gold, U.S. President Richard Nixon announced the permanent termination of the U.S. dollar's convertibility to gold. The Nixon Shock marked the definitive end of the era of gold-backed currency. The collapse of the gold standard is not just a historical event, it has shaped the financial world we live in today. The first direct consequence was the global adoption of the fiat money system. The bill in your hand no longer has intrinsic value or is backed by gold. Its value is based entirely on faith in the stability of the government and central bank that issues it. This is why inflation has become a persistent issue, as governments now have almost unlimited power to print money, especially during crises. The second consequence is the dominance of the US dollar. After the Nixon shock, although no longer tied to gold, the dollar retained its role as the world's primary reserve currency, largely due to the size of the US economy and its role in global trade, especially oil, the petrodollar system. Most significant international transactions are still priced in dollars. The core and most profound lesson from the story of the gold standard is about the eternal trade-off in economics, the trade-off between stability and flexibility. The gold standard provided stability and discipline, preventing runaway inflation. However, that very rigidity made it unable to adapt to severe economic shocks like wars or recessions. Abandoning gold gave governments the flexibility needed to manage their economies, but it also opened the door to risks of inflation and monetary instability. The story of the gold standard is a mirror reflecting humanity's turbulent economic history. It shows how our definition of value has profoundly changed, from a tangible rare metal to an intangible government promise. It is a journey from certainty to flexibility, from discipline to discretion. Today, as we stand on the cusp of new monetary revolutions with the rise of cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, often called digital gold, the story of the gold standard is more relevant than ever. Will history repeat itself? Will the world once again seek a tangible or digital anchor to secure the value of its currency? Or will we continue in the age of faith? What are your thoughts on the future of money? Leave your comments below. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the Economic History channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss our next fascinating economic story. Thank you for watching. See you next time.